Oreo with Hunter's Fury or with Strikers? Now, just because we're in the mood for doing poor comparisons, we're going to be looking at this build, which is 4-piece Hunter's Fury, Grupo, Sokolov, Ouroboros, obviously. And then we're going to be comparing it to this build, which is basically the exact same, but we're just swapping out those 4 Hunter's Fury pieces for 4 Striker pieces. And then we're going to go back to the Hunter's Fury build, and we're going to be comparing this against a different style of Striker setup, which is a very unfair comparison, simply just because the Striker's backpack gives more damage, where Hunter's Fury doesn't. Now, the reason I'm doing this is simply just because I feel like a lot of people underestimate how powerful Hunter's Fury is, as well as overestimate how powerful Strikers potentially can be. Now, I'm not saying either of them are particularly very powerful or particularly underpowered. They are both very, very powerful sets, and for this video we're going to be looking at purely solo. And the reason I'm going to say purely solo is simply because if you are in a group, due to scaling, I'm pretty sure at this point everyone is going to know that regardless of how we want to mess around with it, Strikers is going to give more damage. So if you're playing in a group, you are going to need to get more damage simply because of enemy scaling, at which point, because Hunter's Fury, even at the top end, can't keep up with Strikers, you're not going to get the benefits from Hunter's Fury because a lot of it is on kill, meaning Strikers, which is just stack building by hitting something, is going to be far more beneficial. So we are looking at just solo only, because this is basically the only area where Hunter's Fury, in some weird manner, can actually compete with Strikers. Now, we're just going to go over the base sets very quickly, and we're going to start off with Hunter's Fury because there's a bit more to actually go here. Now, the 2-piece brand set offers obviously 15% SMG damage, which is going to be very, very beneficial. It obviously also offers shotgun damage, which is pretty meh because we're using Ouroboros. However, it does also mean that if we have a shotgun as secondary, both are going to be getting some form of bonus. So I'm considering we're playing SMG, we can go for 2 short range, or we can go for an AR if you want some form of long range precision, but still 15% SMG damage is what we're mainly going to be looking at here. Now, the 3-piece set is 20% armor on kill and 100% health on kill. This is actually pretty damn huge, and I feel like a lot of people really don't grasp how strong this is, especially when used in conjunction with the CC effect of the 4-piece. Now, the 4-piece, enemies within 15 meters receive a debuff, amplifying your weapon damage against them by 20%. Killing a debuffed enemy with your weapon disorients all other enemies within 5 meters and amplifies your weapon damage by another 5% for 10 seconds, and this stacks up to 5 times. Now, there's a bit of a misconception with this. I have covered this in another video, but this doesn't work as 20 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, giving you a grand total of 45% amp. It is actually multiplicative with itself, so what you end up with at maximum is 20 times 1.05 to the power of 5, which gives you 53.15% in amplified damage. This has been confirmed by myself as well as others. If you want more detail, there is a video that I have done, which I'll also link in the description if you wish to watch. Now, Strikers, on the other hand, is quite a bit different. We get 15% weapon handling, which is nice but also not needed. 15% fire rate is actually huge. One thing that a lot of people don't really get is fire rate, which will increase your RPM, is a direct multiplier of your DPS. So if you were to make the exact same Strikers build but remove that 15% fire rate, you will drop exactly 15% in overall DPS, and if you add it back in, you will go up exactly 15% in overall DPS. And then we have the 4-piece talent, which is really the big one. Striker's Gamble. Weapon hits increases your total weapon damage. It doesn't act as a total weapon damage because total weapon damage would add to other total weapon damage. This will multiply with it. I'm not sure why, but it says total weapon damage, but it acts as a direct amplifier, much like how Glass Cannon would, but it doesn't multiply with itself. It's not exponential. So it increases your weapon damage, whether you want to call it total weapon damage or an amp is up to you, by 0.65% per stack, stacking up to 100 times. You lose 1 stack per second between 0 and 50 and 2 stacks per second between 51 and 100. We can alter the stack value with the backpack, taking it from 0.65 to 1, or we can increase the amount of stacks from 100 to 200 with the chest. This means we have a good amount of variety in the ability to increase our damage as well as slot other things in. Now, the largest difference between these two is how they utilize their own inbuilt utility. And I say this just simply because, technically speaking, Strikers literally doesn't have a utility mechanic in it. It's got nothing other than Unga Bunga DPS. All of its utility literally relies around you kill it before it kills you. That is literally it. Whereas Hunter's Fury actually has some amazing utility thrown into it while still having some amazing damage. The utility that I'm referring to is 1, the 20% armor on kill, 2, the 100% health on kill, and 3, the disorient, so that you're able to get in close and stay alive. And as at this point, on a slight tangent, I wish to point out that if you are putting blue cores on your Hunter's Fury build with Ouroboros, there is possibly something psychologically wrong with you. It doesn't need it at all. Due to the sheer amount of DPS that Ouroboros has, it's kind of stupid how damaging it can be, even on Hunter's Fury. So you don't need blue cores because you can kill things more than quick enough to get that 20% armor on kill, to get that disorient, to keep you alive. Anyway, on with the math. Quick recap. Hunter's Fury build versus our Strikers build. They're basically the same. We're just swapping the Strikers for the Hunter's Fury piece. And we're now going to go into the math. Now, there are two ways to look at the base values of these two sets. The first one is just the actual pieces, which gives us this. This is essentially just 15% RPM versus 15% SMG, of which RPM does win, so Strikers does more. But the moment we move Hunter's Fury in range to get that 20% base amp, Hunter's Fury does like 11% more than Strikers. So before anything else actually happens between these two sets, Hunter's Fury is quite far in the lead. But now we enter a problem. See, in order to then calculate the amount of stacking versus time to kill, because Strikers works off of stacks, Hunter's Fury is going to work off of time to kill because it's going to be a talent or a buff that is provided on kill. So your DPS here is, I'm not going to say it's irrelevant, it is very, very, very important. But in order to actually get these two to match up, we're kind of comparing time to kill to DPS, which you can do, but it's stupid doing it because you're never going to get an accurate result. You can't really do DPS versus time to kill. You kind of have to do DPS versus DPS and time to kill versus time to kill. And then this is also very largely going to be dependent on the faction, the veterancy, the type of enemy. Are you being shot? Do you need to get into cover and hide? There's going to be too much that goes into this. So what I've done is I've tried to match the stacks with the kill. So Hunter's Fury with 1 kill is equal to 29 stacks with Strikers. Now, of course, I'm calculating these with both Vigilance or Unstoppable Force at max or active, as well as Obliterate. So this will fluctuate slightly depending on how many stacks of these you have, which this is just going to come down to RNG because crits. Following this process, we can roughly continue this on. So at 2 kills, this is 38 stacks with Strikers. Hunter's Fury with 3 kills is 47 stacks with Strikers. 4 kills is 58 stacks. I'm trying to keep these within a percent, by the way. And then 5 kills is equal to about 68 stacks. Now, the problem here is Strikers, even in this capacity, still goes to 100 stacks for a 0.65% multiplier, which is about 15% more DPS than what Hunter's Fury is capable of at this point. However, these both still have really high DPS. We're at like 16.5 mil, and then on headshot and 12.2 mil on body shot with Hunter's Fury, averaging about 14 mil DPS roughly. This is still huge. This is much more than what Elmo's is able to get. on a standard Strikers build, it's pretty impressive. Now both of these kind of get blown out of the water as soon as we add in the Strikers backpack. As you can see here, although the previous build that I showed had like a 15% difference between them, if we add in the Strikers backpack, we get like a 24% increase, which is kind of nuts. However, this video has gone on far too long, there's far too many spreadsheets, and the general conclusion is it's mostly up to you. Again, I would say this is mostly going to be just for solo, simply just because if you are going to go into groups, Strikers all the way, and what utility you are missing, you could easily make up for in team composition. However, for solo, my personal opinion, I tend to stick with Hunter's Fury. It's probably one of the greatest sets for solo, and it is absolutely amazing at keeping you alive, and adding in Ouroboros has just been a huge boon for the overall set itself. Anyway, have fun, good luck, don't die, it's bad for the health.